Raise your right hand.
Donald Trump's presidency has blown into a crisis for America.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So long as Donald Trump is president, the actions of the U.S. government and the men and the women who work for it cannot be trusted. To understand why, I want you to watch two particular parts of James Comey's testimony.
At the time, did you say anything to the president about that is not an appropriate request?
Rubio was talking about Trump's request that Comey end the investigation into Michael Flynn.
Or did you tell the White House counsel that is not an appropriate request? Someone needs to go tell the president that he can't do these things?
I didn't, no.
Okay, why?
I don't know. I think, as I said earlier, I think the circumstances were such that I was a bit stunned and didn't have the presence of mind.
Then there was a similar exchange with Senator Dianne Feinstein.
Now, here's the question. You're big, you're strong. I know the Oval Office, and I know what happens to people when they walk in. There is a certain amount of intimidation. But why didn't you stop and say, Mr. President, this is wrong. I cannot discuss this with you?
It's a great question. Maybe if I were stronger, I would have.
What is amazing about these exchanges is they're the favorite exchanges of Donald Trump's defenders. But they're so scary if you listen to them closely.
I was so stunned by the conversation that I just took it in. And the only thing I could think to say, because I was playing in my mind, because I was going to remember every word he said.
Republicans see these back and forths as devastating to Comey. Their reasoning, as I understand it, is that if Trump's request of Comey was so egregious, so awful, then how come Comey didn't tell Trump on the spot?
The president's new at this.
That it was over the line. How come he didn't quit right then and there?
I remember saying, I agree he's a good guy, as a way of saying I'm not agreeing with what you just asked me to do. Again, maybe other people would be stronger in that circumstance, but that's how I conducted myself. I hope I'll never have another opportunity. Maybe if I did it again, I would do it better.
You can see Trump's son making a version of this argument on Twitter. He even does it with a laughing, crying emoji. But James Comey was the director of the FBI. As director of the FBI, he had a 10-year term designed to grant him unusual independence. He led an agency with a proud culture of resisting outside interference. He was exposed daily to the most unnerving secrets and profound threats that face a country. In other words, Comey is one of the hardest civil servants to intimidate. But when trapped in a room with the President of the United States, and when his job and all the good he believed he can do in that job was dangled before him, even he felt the pressure. We know this is how Trump works. Asked what qualities he looks for in new hires, Trump replied, "The thing that is most important to me is loyalty." Then there's this extraordinary passage from The Art of the Deal. In it, Trump is praising his mentor, Roy Cohn. Compare him with all the hundreds of respectable guys who make careers out of boasting about their uncompromising integrity, but have absolutely no loyalty. They only care about what's best for them and don't think twice about stabbing a friend in the back if the friend becomes a problem. What I liked most about Roy Cohn was that he would do just the opposite. So of course Trump asked Comey for loyalty. Of course he asked him to protect his friend Michael Flynn. It's a height of naivete to believe this same story isn't playing out elsewhere in Trump's administration, to believe that it ends with James Comey, or to believe that every public servant Trump tries to intimidate or asks for loyalty will fare as well or have as much integrity as James Comey. Think of how this could have gone. Imagine it wasn't Comey who Trump had invited to dinner, but a candidate for the FBI directorship who shared Trump's values, who was more focused on his own career advancement than on his integrity. Imagine Trump asked for loyalty and this person immediately agreed. We would never know that conversation had happened. But the Federal Bureau of Investigations would now be serving Trump, not the American people. And this is what scares me. It might have already happened. On Wednesday, Trump nominated Christopher Wray to replace James Comey as FBI director. How do we know the reason Trump chose Wray over all the other candidates isn't because Wray said, yes, I will be loyal to you? Is what I'm saying fair to Wray? Maybe not. Maybe he didn't do any of that. But this is a cloud of suspicion the US government will be under so long as Donald Trump is president. We know Trump holds an office that gives him vast power for intimidation, for vengeance. We know he's a man who will use that power to serve his own ends. We know that people who survive in Donald Trump's employ are those who carry out his commands. We know that those who refuse get fired, like James Comey. In the American system, the presidency is an office bounded by constitutional limits and competing institutions, yes, but it is just as importantly bounded by the morality and personal rectitude of whoever occupies it. There was little doubt before Comey's presentation that Trump was of poor moral character. There is no doubt after it. Trump is dangerously unfit for this role. The defense cannot be, maybe the president of the United States isn't technically a criminal. And then, only maybe, I would ask Republicans hearing this to imagine the word Trump replaced with Clinton or with Obama. How would they feel if everything I've described here was done by Hillary Clinton? How afraid would they be if it was President Obama acting like this? That is how they should feel now. The country needs more from them right now. It needs more from all of us than excuses for behavior that we know is wrong.
Of course, there needs to be a degree of independence between DOJ, FBI, and a White House, and a line of communications established. The president's new at this. He's new to government. And so he probably wasn't steeped in the long-running protocols that establish the relationships between DOJ, FBI, and White Houses. He's just new to this.